right, welcome to the show, everybody. It is Thursday, April 29th, 2021. We're going to be breaking down some of the biggest news around the sports world today ahead of the NFL draft tonight.
It's draft day.
And there goes that man's jock strap.
Oh my God, did you see that?
America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports.
There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship.
Green Bay's got it this year. Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Golf Kicks. Tired of wearing golf shoes on your feet? Are they too tight or not your style? Now you don't have to worry. Customize all types of shoes from flip-flops to Jordans and wear them in style out on the course. Use code OWN20, that's OWN20, to get a discount on all of your orders. Yet again, that's code OWN20, OWN20.
All right. So tonight's draft night, we're excited. We'll be breaking down kind of what we're doing with that later, but just jumping right into it. Just some NFL news. I'll kind of mention a couple things non-draft related, and then we can switch over to draft stuff. 2 days ago, the Bucs re-signed Antonio Brown to a 1-year, $6.5 million deal. He was kind of, I guess, the one missing piece to bringing back officially their entire 2021 or 2020 Super Bowl team. They basically got every single person coming back there. There's a couple other teams that I had reached out to him, actually more than a couple. I think there's like 10 teams roughly that had reached out to try to bring him back. And obviously great to see him go back to the team where he won a Super Bowl a year prior. So.
Yeah, if I don't know if anybody got to see it, but he put a nice little thank you post out on Instagram to Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, the Bucs organization, for bringing him back and extending that opportunity to come back. He says he's back and he's booming. That's his thing. So look for him to heat up this year and see him get back to old AB when he was tearing it up with the Steelers.
Yeah, and then the other non-draft related point that I have was Chiefs tight end Sean Culkin, who's the number 2 tight end on the Chiefs behind Travis Kelce. He becomes the first NFL player to convert his entire NFL salary into Bitcoin. So that's kind of interesting. Obviously, just cryptocurrency is kind of the thing of the future in the next 5 to 10 years. Who knows? That might be the only thing. Credit cards, cash really kind of will start to fade out. So, I don't know if other NFL players are going to start to do it now that he's been the first, but just kind of a cool thing to point out there.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. That's kind of like some of the sports. I know the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, him being a tech guy, they accept Bitcoin. You can buy tickets with Bitcoin. You can buy concession stuff with Bitcoin there. So you're going to start seeing this incorporated more and more. I feel like as, like you said, the cryptocurrencies and hardcore cash kind of starts to become non-relevant anymore. It's a good idea to get out and do it early. You know, if you're one of the first ones, you're gonna have a lot more.
For sure. Yeah, that is a good point to make, because now that if there's a big trend of people coming over, that makes the price of Bitcoin go down the more people buy into it. So being the first guy, yeah, it's definitely going to help in that respect. Do you have any NFL stuff non-related to the draft, or do you just have draft stuff?
Yeah, the Colts re-signed. I think he's a guard. Quentin Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
They're bringing him back. It's good to see them keeping their line intact. He's definitely one of the top linemen in the whole entire NFL. He's solid, so that's great to see them bringing him back to protect Carson Wentz. And then just Teddy Bridgewater yesterday getting traded to the Broncos. A kind of interesting point here. I don't know if you even knew this, Collin, but Sam Darnold has now officially can be considered Teddy Bridgewater's kryptonite. He was the reason Sam Darnold being drafted was the reason Teddy was traded out of the Jets in the first place. And then now it's coming to bite him in the ass, and Carolina's taking him, and now they're sending him to Denver. So kind of sucks for Teddy, but also at the same time, now that they're kind of in the driver's seat with Teddy, Drew Lock, and potentially even taking another quarterback. If you see them taking another quarterback, what do you think Bridgewater stays and they ship Lock out?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you brought up, and I was going to bring that up as well if you didn't, about a source within the Broncos organization saying even after the Bridgewater draft, they're not taking the quarterback position off the table at pick number 9, as they shouldn't. I mean, as much as you want to tailor to what your team needs the most, obviously for Denver being the quarterback position right now, I think Teddy Bridgewater is definitely leaps and bounds ahead of Drew Lock as far as kind of what the impact he's brought to the organizations he's been on, a little bit of playoff experience as well, stuff like that. And Drew Lock has just been kind of lackluster his couple years in the league now. So, yeah, at number 9, I mean, kind of the trend the past week or so has been Justin Fields dropping farther and farther on the draft stock, and some even saying he's going to drop outside the top 10. Um, I think if Justin Fields is available at 9, I don't see why the Denver Broncos don't go after him and get rid of Drew Lock for whatever they can get for him, which is surprising given that Teddy Bridgewater, the Broncos gave up a 6th round pick for him. In my opinion, I would have said Teddy was worth a 2nd or 3rd round pick. 6th is kind of cutting it low, but I mean, it's kind of a steal for the Broncos to get a guy for that low of a pick. But yeah, if they decide to go after a quarterback at number 9, I definitely say they keep Teddy Bridgewater as he has more of the veteran experience to take whoever they do take out of the draft under his wing and create a better competition in the quarterback room. I think Teddy Bridgewater would win that easily over Drew Lock. But again, if they gave up a 6th round pick for Teddy, what are they going to give up for Drew Lock? Like a 7th round pick? Like, I don't know. That's just kind of where my head's at with that.
Yeah, one of the main reasons why only a 6th round pick was involved in that was due to cap reasons. Carolina, I believe, is picking up like $5 million on his salary this season, and Denver will take the rest. So I feel like
7 and 3.
Yeah, so that's one of the main reasons why there was only a 6th round pick exchanged in the whole cap thing, is because basically a lot of teams are kind of stuck right now. Like there's some teams that can't even sign any of their rookies if they draft any of them. So it's gonna be a hot night tonight. Definitely, there's gonna be a lot of, I feel like, late to like during the draft, or I feel like even before Monday comes around, I feel like there's going to be a lot of moves for teams to get adjusted and get ready to get off to a hot start.
So with that being said, with the cap space being an issue, do you think that would be better for like Fields or even some of these top guys that are supposed to go in the top 10? They're a top 10 talent, but they drop to later in the 1st round or even the 2nd round for that matter. It's going to be cheaper options for those teams to sign those kind of guys. Do you think that is better for those players or worse? Because in some ways they can end up on a better team, that like a team that they can step in and potentially be a playoff contender right away, because obviously the top 5 teams in the draft right now are the teams that struggled the most last year, and some of them the last like 5 to 10 years. So yeah, just kind of following or going back to that question, do you think it's better for these athletes to drop farther so that they are more affordable?
Through the draft is the cheapest way to get a quarterback either way, no matter, even if you take him the 1st pick overall, because that's still even way cheaper than what quarterbacks are signing for at the end of their contract years. So I feel like sliding back doesn't necessarily help the players. Obviously, there's a couple scenarios where I could see it like working out going later in the draft, like to the Bucks. I could see if obviously I don't think they're going to take a quarterback because, Tom's their guy, and I feel like he's the type of guy he'd at least have the respect to give them the notice, like, hey, this is going to be my last year, so that they can kind of get their chips in order for them to start preparing for the future past Tom. And so I don't know, dude. I really don't think falling back helps it. I mean, obviously you're making less money, so personally you're getting less.
Well, I mean, not for the athlete, I'm saying for the team.
Right. Yeah, you are going to a better team. Great. But I guess it really depends. If you're in a win now, I don't think it really matters. But if you're kind of rebuilding, yeah, the later you can get those guys definitely helps. Especially like next season, how the cap's going to go back up. it's just like this season's kind of almost like a wash. I wouldn't really say a wash, but this season you're really going to see who the teams are who are actually that good, because the teams
Yeah.
aren't going to have that free willingness to go buy everybody and their brother to bring them in. You know what I mean? Where next season, like after this season's over, next free agency is going to be the craziest free agency I think we've seen in a long time, due to the amount of money that these teams are going to have, plus all these top end guys who've signed 1-year deals or are on the last year of their deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
gonna
that
be
brings me up to one question here that I have for you. Gutekunst, Packers GM, came out and said a couple of days ago that Rodgers is our guy for the foreseeable future. What do you think that actually means, as he's saying that, due to the foreseeable future in Green Bay is pretty much tomorrow?
yeah. I mean, you look at even look at San Francisco about a month ago. Shanahan came out and said Jimmy G's our guy. Jimmy G's our guy. And then just 2 or 3 days ago, they asked about Jimmy G's spot on the roster. I can't confirm anybody's going to be alive on Sunday, so he just avoided the question because again, they're going to show that they're going after a quarterback at the 3 position. Again, up in the air between Mac Jones and Trey Lance are kind of the 2 guys they're leaning towards now. But
people are saying Fields is still in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Because in that interview, after that, I actually went on and listened to the whole press conference between that John Lynch and Shanahan had, and it was pretty long, but they actually gave some pretty good answers. I mean, the media kind of was busting their balls, wanting to get answers, and they did a great job not revealing too much of what they were doing, but they were actually answering the questions and stuff. So, the Jimmy G thing, the biggest question mark that Shanahan says is his health. He can win when he plays, and he does great when he plays, but when he's not there, they struggle. And that's obvious. Any team starting quarterback goes out, look at the Packers, for instance. They're almost in the same position where you don't really have a solid enough. Yeah, we did take Jordan Love, and who knows how good he's going to be. He could be like a Rodgers type scenario 5-6 years down the road, come in like Rodgers did, and he could be off to the races. But we don't really have that guy, just like they don't really have that guy, and that's why they're going to take a quarterback. And he said that there's 5 quarterbacks that they would be okay with taking, and at that point, he said there's only going to be 3 left, and he said their organization would be okay with any single one that they would take. Obviously, in credit to him too, he's kind of boosted all the quarterback stock, because he said that all the quarterbacks had their bars set, and then after all their workouts and stuff, all their bars went up, all their stocks went up. So I could see them sneaking in and getting Fields. All the smoke I could definitely see could be the 49ers leaking all of that out to get all these teams not interested in him so that they could snag him.
Yeah, I mean, and looking at that 49ers team too, you got George Kittle, you got Brandon Ayuk, you have Deebo Samuel, all really good guys. And looking at Jimmy G, I'd say he's a slightly above average quarterback in the NFL. But the problem is with him, he averages only 15, 25, 30 passes a game. Whereas you look at Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, 40, 50 passes a game. Drew Brees, when he was in the league, 40, 50 passes a game. That 49ers team, as much as they have really good running backs and the running back core has helped them win games, they need to start getting that offense back, that pass offense back in gear. And I don't know if it's just the scheme that they have Jimmy G in, or if he's more comfortable taking less reps in a game. But when you have that kind of top talent catching balls, and you're only throwing 20, 30 balls that you're splitting between 4 or 5 different receivers, you do the math, they're only getting a couple throws a piece. And so you just need to bring somebody in, whether they revamp Jimmy G and get him more reps, or if they do go out and get in the draft, wants to take on that pass heavy role. I think that'd be essential for getting the 49ers back on track and into their 2019 Super Bowl form.
Yeah, just unfortunately, Shanahan, that's not his style. He is a QB guru, and he does a lot of good things with quarterbacks like Matt Ryan and all this. But I feel like he's always had that run first mentality, because if you can win the game running the ball, why wouldn't you just fucking run the ball every single time? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it might be boring and the guys aren't getting the stats, but a W is a W and you're still going to get to the Super Bowl. So that's all that really matters, is winning a Super Bowl, and not, not personal statistics. I guarantee you, if you ask everybody on all the organizations, 99% of them would say I'd rather take a Super Bowl over having a personal career high year. Like, if you're a Super Bowl, like if you win a Super Bowl, you're set for life, basically. Like, just think of all the signings you can do for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's former Super Bowl champion, and you're known as that for forever. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're gonna bring a guy in who, like I said, for some reason it's really irking me that they're gonna take Fields and nobody's gonna see it coming. But for all the stuff and publicly, Mac Jones, it's Mac Jones, it's Mac Jones. I really don't know, because Mac Jones really does fit that pro style quarterback, pocket passer, throw the ball, where the other guys kind of have a little bit more mobility and are a little bit more athletic.
Yeah. And I guess kind of circling back to what you said about Guten Kuhn's talking about Rodgers. I mean, like, oh, Rodgers is a guy for the foreseeable future. Well, yeah, you should say that. You should say that any team should say that about their starting quarterback, no matter what. Because if you step up to a podium and they ask about who your QB1 is, you're like, you're kind of beating around the bush. That's showing the world that your team is not confident. Your guy who's under center, you're not confident in what he's doing. So I mean, him coming out and saying, "Oh, Rodgers is a guy for the foreseeable future." I mean, he should be. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever exist. So that should be what they say no matter what. Um, I don't know. Like,
if you're Rodgers, though, won't you be like, well, then fucking extend me, give me some money?
yeah, that's a
Like,
whole
you're
other.
talking the talk, you're talking the talk, you're talking the talk, walk the walk, buddy, sign it. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I know all
Because
these
he
other.
clearly wants to be a Packer. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yeah,
So it's like, what the fuck's the rush, dude? You have a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the greatest to play the position, who wants to be there. That's like Peyton Manning saying, yeah, like if he would have came out and been like, yeah, I want to be a Colt for the rest, they would have fucking done. That's like Tom Brady. If he really wanted to stay in New England and said, hey, I want to play my whole career here, they would have done whatever it took to keep him there.
mm-hmm.
It's like, dude,
That's rare to have a guy at that age with the team. Yeah, Rodgers has a Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl championship under his belt, but he at this point should have 4 or 5 realistically. Um,
yeah, the organization has let him down time and time again.
exactly, which goes to it's rare to see a guy at his age, the frustration he's gone through in the past 5 years with NSC, with getting so close to the Super Bowl and not getting there, and still wanting to stay with that organization. Like, you sign that guy now. Like, if he's on the fence and is like, oh yeah, like I'd be open to trade talks and stuff like that. Like, you already lost. You got to sign this guy while he still says he wants to be a Packer. Because as soon as that table turns, you're not going to get a guy like that back. Especially once that money gets thrown on the table by fucking 10, 15 teams that would love to have him. Like, he's going to look at that money and say, oh shit, they're paying me double what the Packers are going to give me. As soon as that money gets on the table and those conversations happen, he's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's another thing that I wonder too is do like with Julio, the whole free agency with him, Atlanta openly, their GM's saying, yeah, we're answering phone calls for him. Well, this morning it looks like the Ravens have reached out to them. They're the first team that's openly, publicly commented and trying to work something out. He'd be a great fit for Baltimore, as Lamar doesn't really have a home run. He's got Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown, and Snead. Well, no, Snead left, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's on the Dolphins, but otherwise they got Mark Andrews, who's a top 5 tight end.
But they just need that superstar. They just need that superstar wide receiver. They need a true number 1, and to help Lamar out, because time and time again, people say he can't throw. Well, last season, I think he threw the ball pretty fucking well. And Go get him a number one guy, and you'll see his numbers, I think, even improve even more. But I'll say it again, how it would be incredible if the Packers would just get their shit straight and say, hey, last draft we fucked up by getting Love. We're going to send him out with somebody else to Atlanta, and we're going to get you a guy, and we're going to get you Julio, because we fucked up and we realized we fucked up, and we want you here, and we want a couple more Super Bowls before this thing's over, because we don't know when another guy like you is going to be the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
Exactly.
It's not as easy of a transition as it was from Favre to Rodgers, because you already knew he was that guy. You know what I mean? Where fuck Tim Boyle, Jordan Love, question marks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fucking know if they're going to be that good. They weren't as good as other guys coming out in the draft, and a lot of quarterbacks don't even make it. You know what I mean? A lot of quarterbacks have. I don't know if you watched for people who haven't seen the Pat McAfee show, they have a graphic on there which was all the quarterbacks taken from like 2010 to 2020 in the first round. There's only like 6 that are still on the same team from 2010. Like, there's a handful of guys that aren't even in the league, and there's a lot of guys who aren't even in the league anymore. So quarterbacks is that one position where we don't have to worry about that now. I still feel like Green Bay should really own up to their big fuck up that they did last year and trading up to go get them. To just have Rodgers say, fuck you, I'm an MVP. Like you bringing in a quarterback for what? I'm still the MVP. Like, I'm still the best. Like, why?
No, I definitely agree with that. Where it's a lot less like kind of how Rodgers was to Favre, where you bring in a young guy, he sits for 3 to 5 years and then takes over the spot. There's a lot of backup quarterbacks who, if another QB1 either on their own team or on another team goes down, they could step in and be great. Like that. That's how deep the quarterback position is nowadays. To where if Rodgers says I'm retiring, and they still just have Tim Boyle or Jordan Love, or fast forward a couple of years, if they take another quarterback, if they get rid of Jordan Love, you could go out in free agency and find a quarterback in the last year of his contract, or a guy who is a 1 year removed who hadn't found somewhere to sign, who, like a Teddy Bridgewater, for instance, he's going to go to Denver and probably do great things if so long as he wins that quarterback battle with Drew Lock or whoever they bring out of the draft. Like a guy like that, you people don't think of Teddy Bridgewater probably in the top 10 for quarterbacks when somebody's listing off quarterbacks in the NFL, but he is a guy who's been there, who's done that, who has been productive.
Fuck, he almost won an MVP if he wouldn't have got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he tore it up. He was so good up until he got hurt, and then even after he got shipped out of the Jets down to the Saints, what does he do? Steps in and win fucking 6 games, goes 6-0 for the Saints, and it's just like, yeah, this guy's still got it.
Exactly. So I'm not worried about the quarterback position. They got to be in a win now situation. Whether they go out and get Julio, they only have like $2 million in cap space, so they'd have to get rid of
Jordan Love.
They have to get rid of 2 or 3 guys to free up some space, and even maybe restructure some other guys' contracts to get that kind of room. But yeah, if like as much as cap space is an issue, it's not. Look at the Bucks, the Chiefs. Look at the Chiefs signing Mahomes, so a $500 million contract. Do the Chiefs have $500 million in cap space? No, they converted to signing bonuses and this and that and structured out over years and years. Teams can make this stuff happen.
Yeah, that's what the teams are doing, is taking all the money now and just throwing it. Down the road you'll get it. Down the road you'll get it. Down the road you'll get it. And then when it comes to that time where it's down the road and they're supposed to get it, well, if they're still in the same thing, then they convert it to a signing bonus, give it to them. And yeah, that's exactly what these teams are doing. And Julio's contract, I believe, is $15 million. And then I forgot if it was like before June 1st, if he gets traded before June 1st, I think it's only like a 13 point something hit compared to after, where it's like a $25 million hit. So it doesn't, like we said, it doesn't matter. And and mark my words, I wouldn't be fucking surprised if the Chiefs found a way to somehow pull it off and get Julio Jones there. And if that happens, every team's fan bases are going to be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? We're letting the league turn into the Bucs versus the Chiefs.
And again, that goes to show where all the people that are like, oh, these teams can't afford, the Packers can't afford Julio Jones. If the Chiefs or the Bucs or any of these top teams that are the most pressed for cap space go and get him, then what the fuck are you guys talking about? Because it can be done. It can be done. No matter what, how it looks on paper, these executives, these people behind closed doors get paid get paid 6-7 figures a year, just like the players do, to run these organizations to make them win now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the Packers. I mean, I'd partially be surprised just because the Packers don't make moves like that, but I wouldn't be surprised because any team can make it happen.
Yeah, I just really think that for how the organization has treated Aaron Rodgers his whole career, I feel like the dude deserves some fucking respect. Like, I feel like and what's just really strange to actually like think about it this way, but I feel like the management in the organization is really taking him for granted for what he's actually been able to do for us in Green Bay. Like, us as a Packers fan, knowing that we have Rodgers, it's like, okay, we're in the playoffs every year, no problem. Like, we'll have a shot for a Super Bowl. It's just like how nice is that for the organization, like for the fans to just know, oh, we got our guy, we're good. We're good. We ain't got to worry about like the Bears right now. Like, they're a fucking dumpster fire. Detroit, they're kind of like in a rebuild, new coach, new quarterback, the Vikings, they're pretty good still, but it's just like we're there every single season, not having to really change anything. So I feel like you really owe it to the guy for one time in his career, especially on the latter half. Like, I guarantee you he'd take less money to bring in Julio.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if he knows that that's going to turn into him winning another Super Bowl or two over the next couple of years, he's not
exactly.
an arrogant guy.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's what goes back to everybody taking less to win a Super Bowl, because in the end you end up getting more off of your Super Bowl. So it's worth to take a little less now to make more in the long run.
Exactly. Speaking of the Vikings, briefly here, Vikings GM Rick Spielman was asked about Kirk Cousins' future, and he said that no position was off the table in the draft. With the Vikings sitting at the number 14 spot, and again, Justin Fields expected to now fall to the top 10. Do you see Minnesota going after Fields or Lance or any of these quarterbacks that might fall outside the top 10?
I don't see a quarterback falling outside the top 10 personally. I don't even see a quarterback falling outside the top 9. I feel like that 9th spot is going to be where that fifth quarterback goes. So they're either going to have to trade up into the top 10 or they're not going to get a shot for a quarterback.
With that being said, do you think that's something they would do?
You got Pitts with the 5 quarterbacks, so that's 6 picks gone. So there's really only four spots with wiggle room where you can kind of go do it. And then that Sewell guy, that the lineman, he's supposed to go as well. So that there's really only 3 picks that are super big question marks for who's going to be where and who's going to take who.
Yeah. So with that being said, do you think that Minnesota's pressed enough to try to trade into the top 10 to go get a quarterback? I don't know what else. I don't know what else they have to give up this year for as far as draft picks and what next year's draft stock looks like for them. But I mean, Kirk Cousins is not. He doesn't seem like the guy in Minnesota. He had his first year he was in Minnesota. He looked good, and like that was really their best year. But their defense is, if their defense has a bad year, then kind of like last year, I think they went 7-9, and their defense was just average, and they missed the playoffs. So, do you think that it's time to move on from Kirk Cousins, or do you give him one more year to try to figure things out?
I say you stick with Kirky. He's a solid quarterback. He has struggled in big games. That has been his one downfall his whole career. Is like any big primetime game that he plays, he usually struggles a little bit. But they did just bring in Justin Jefferson last year. He looked very, very solid. Thielen is going to be healthy this season. So I don't know, man. They beat the Saints. You know what I mean? Like just not too long ago with pretty much the same roster, and you add a wide receiver. Dalvin Cook's in his prime, tearing it up. So I don't know. I really feel like you shouldn't make any too drastic of a move, like too crazy of a move right now. I'd say vamping that defense up because that's kind of where their pride and strength was a few years ago when they were on the verge of making the playoffs and in the playoffs. Their defense was a lot better than it is now. So I feel like they should try to beef up that defense.
Yeah, I agree. Either that or the offensive line to get Kirk a little bit better protection. Just watching him in the games against the Packers or just in general watching games that he's played, it seems like he's rushing a little bit of throws. So when he's throwing an incompletion on third down or throwing a pick in a high pressure situation, getting that extra second or two of protection, he turns from an average quarterback to an above average quarterback, and the Vikings look like a different team. The other points, or another point I had, or at least the last NFL point that I have, I should say, is yesterday Seahawks GM Schneider and head coach Pete Carroll were in a conference and both said that Russell's in a great place now, and then they supposedly addressed and fixed his concerns. Again, they don't have a first round pick this year, so does that, given that they haven't signed anybody, they said that they have addressed and fixed his concerns, even though they haven't really yet. Does this mean, is this hinting that they're going to try to trade up maybe into the first round to try to go get an offensive line, one of the top offensive linemen? Given that they've only re-signed I think their starting center and one of their starting guards, which again, cool, they brought back some starting guys, but given that he was running for his life, obviously that whatever guys they had together there wasn't working for them. So would it make sense for them to trade up? I know a month back or a couple weeks back or whatever, we did a mock draft. I had them trading up into the first round to try to get an offensive tackle. Does that still have some weight behind it, or do you think that they're just going to take whatever they can get with pick 54 or whatever it is in the second round?
Well, you don't really have much to bargain to trade to get up this season, as you can't use the picks anymore. You can't use this year's picks anymore. So do you really want to keep gambling your future your future away to try to get a guy now? That's kind of like they're almost in that same position that I put the Vikings in, where they're one catastrophic move in the draft to becoming absolute shit, where they can just piece a guy in, and be just fine doing what they're doing now. I think they did bring in one lineman that wasn't there from last season, so that was one bit of help that I know that they did get. But yeah, basically the same majority of the line is returning, and that kind of was his big issue there. But also at the same time, him calling out the line, does that mean that he wants to run shotgun more? You know what I mean? Like, there could be so many different reasons for him saying what he said, and clearly what's going on behind closed doors and whatnot for the GM and the coach to come out and say, hey, everything's good. Russ is in a good spot. I believe that, like kind of Russ's whole career, they win and lose. Like as Russ goes, they go, ever since that defense, left whatever they were called, the Legion of Boom. Right?
Yeah.
So once they got disbanded, it's as Russell goes, the Seahawks go, and their offense is amazing. Their wide receivers, they have a great fucking core of wide receivers. They got good tight ends. They got good running backs when they're healthy. The line thing, you know what I mean? Was that an offensive coordinator fuck up by the plays that he was calling and how he was teaching? You know what I mean? There's so many different things that could go into why it didn't work out. Clearly, if you're in the NFL, you have the talent to play in the NFL, so you can figure it out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't see them blowing up their future to try to go get up that high this year, unless you do have some guys that you're willing to cut ties with. If you
Yeah.
have a couple veterans who you're willing to cut ties with, and a team wants to bring in some veterans because they have a young team, that's a perfect example to go do that. But I don't feel like you should sell the bank to go try to get a guy in the first round.
Yeah, but I guess an interesting take that I saw, it was either yesterday or the day before. Colin Cowherd was comparing. It was basically Trevor. Would you take Trevor Lawrence or, and then fill in blank? So it's like Trevor Lawrence or Russell Wilson in 5 years, Aaron Rodgers in 5 years, such and such. When it came to Russell Wilson, he said he'd take Trevor Lawrence because he, and the kind of the points he made sense, that he says he could see Russell not being in Seattle in a year or two, especially with the cap going up next year. I could see some money being thrown on the table from another team for him to go elsewhere, especially like you said, for kind of what they've given up with Jamal Adams and not having a first round pick this year, and just kind of what they've done to get like DK Metcalf and like keep him and stuff like that, that they're not going to be able to afford a guy like Russell Wilson. So like you said, if they were to trade up this year and try to go get an offensive tackle for Russell, yes, long term that's going to have long term implications. But when Russell Wilson might not be in your team in a year or two, you need to go out and make changes like that if you want to try to make a Super Bowl run in the next year or two. So if you're looking future wise, you say we have what we have and that's how it is. But if you actually want to keep Russell Wilson happy and try to win another Super Bowl with him, 5 years, you're going to be next 3 to 5 years, you're going to be screwed. But if you can get a Super Bowl out of it in the next year or two, it's worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like as an organization, you're not coaching, you're not like structuring every single season to win now. You know what I mean? Like look at what the Seahawks did last year with all their first round picks that they gave up to get Adams to try to win now. What did that do for them? Now that set them back 2 years basically. Are you gonna do it again and fucking be 4 years out now? Like
Yeah.
I don't think it makes any sense for them. Like, and even with the whole thing, that's a valid point. Russell might not even be there. So why are we gonna fuck ourselves 4 years down the road and Russ isn't gonna be here? Like
Yeah.
it makes zero sense. I feel like they play it safe, keep all keep your cards tight to your chest. You don't want to be giving away everything that you have because you don't have any value. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if you have a couple first round picks, that's a lot of value, But if you don't have it, think of how many guys that they've missed out on opportunities to either trade for or whatever because they have no first round picks.
Yeah.
Or a second round pick. You know what I mean? So I mean, to each their own. You either risk it to get the biscuit, and that's kind of seems their motto is kind of how it's been. Like I said, ever since that defense left, it seems like they've become really big risk takers in going to get a guy like what they did for Jimmy Graham. You know what I mean? Like they went out and got a handful of guys, older guys too, that are good. Don't get me wrong, but the price that they had to give to get these guys, I just don't. They're getting fleeced.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, yeah, they don't have a first round pick, but at the 54th pick or whatever they're at, you could still get an offensive lineman there. The
Absolutely.
offensive line is such a deep position to where there's probably 3 to 5 top talent guys at tackle, guard, center. Given that they signed a guard and a center, and the tackle position is kind of your edge protection, which gives the most concern for protecting your quarterback off his blind edge. There's going to be some good guys still at that position, at that availability in the middle of the second round. So if they decide not to trade up, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they don't go out and get an offensive lineman with their first pick in the second round. That's going to be kind of shaky. I mean, I think that they have to go out and get a guy no matter what, whoever's best available on the line. But if they don't, that's going to be kind of, again, creating some more controversy in Seattle.
Well, yeah, look at the Packers. They had that rookie step in this year, and he played 3 of the 5 line spots, and he was one of the best in the league. It's like, guarantee this guy wasn't a first round pick, second round pick. I bet he was like a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid just made a name for himself, and now he's set. You know what I mean? The line, like you said, It's all the structure. I never played the line, so I don't really know how much really goes into it, but just knowing what I know about football, it just seems like it's all about the camaraderie of those guys. It's not about who's all the best athletes. It's just how well they work together.
Hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, in high school, I played literally everything from tackle. I played tight end literally to center. And once it got to the point of senior year, I was playing center. Kind of like you mentioned, that camaraderie. I knew what each guard was supposed to do, who they were supposed to block, each tackle. And I'm sure at the NFL level, it's like that times 10 even, to where each guy knows each other's responsibility. And when everybody steps up and does their job and not let anything through the cracks, um, that's huge. And especially nowadays with injuries and on the line and stuff like that, you always see like Bakhtiari last year going down towards the end of the year. That's a huge hit. Being the top rated left tackle in football. Not only that, but to have anybody on your line go down, have somebody come in new. It's rarely do you see, oh, one guy went down, next guy in. He moves to guard, he moves to the here. And that next thing you know, everybody's shifting around. And that's not something on the fly that they just pick up right away. That takes a game or two to kind of get that mesh built. And then another guy goes down, or the guy that was hurt comes back. So you got to go back to your old positions. So it's definitely a lot of moving around. And as much as the line gets looked past, they're obviously the silent, like like if there's a amazing pass that happens, it was because good pass protection. If there's a huge run that breaks off, it's because the line had really good blocks. Nobody ever really looks at that. They look at the playmaker that made it happen. But without a good line, you're screwed.
Well, yeah, and it's not even just a line too. You know what I mean? It's the quarterback taking the snap, making sure he's not fumbling it, handing it off in the right spot. It's the receivers blocking their guys out on the outside. It's like Rodgers says, it's like I love hockey, but like as far as team sports is, football is the biggest team sport that there is because there's 11 guys all having to do their job at the exact same time, and you can't one person can't really do it. Like, yeah, the quarterback has a little bit more leeway, and a receiver and a running back have a little bit more leeway to try to create some open space and make a play. But at the end of the day, it's not that one guy that fucking wins the game. You know what I mean? Like the quarterback is the face, but like you said, it's because the line, it's the center, it's the tight ends, it's the wide. Every single person doing their job is the reason why the people succeed doing what they do. And then obviously the receivers and whatever, they get paid a little bit more because they touch the ball, they score the touchdowns. They're the flashy ones, but yeah, it's none of that would happen if it weren't for the line, doing their job and everybody doing their job. So it's really I was really impressed with the Packers how easily they shuffled everything around and were able to pretty much keep it going. And we made the NFC Championship game without, one of the best linemen in the league.
For sure. Do you have any other NFL points?
No, I don't.
All right. Switching over to the NBA here, just one point that I wanted to mention. Not a whole lot going on in the league, even though the playoffs are just a couple weeks away. Yesterday, the Suns and 76ers joined the Nets and Jazz, clinching playoff berth. Phoenix Suns looked really good. They beat the Clippers, which again another big team out of the West. It's the first time the Suns clinch a playoff berth since 2010. So great to see that organization back on track. Again, Devin Booker, Chris Paul kind of leading that team night after night. I know, like you said, they're your favorite to take it all this year in the NBA Finals. So great to see that. Looks like the Bucks as well within the next game or two should be able to clinch a spot as well. So kind of getting to that point of the season where it's crunch time, where really the top three teams are kind of like, all right, we're in no matter what. And then after that, everybody else is kind of a grind to either stay where they're at, or if they're out, try to work their way up and in.
Yeah, every team's fighting not to be in that 7th or below spot to have to do the play-in, because that'd be a little rough to have to go play a best of one when your season's on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've brought this up before, when it's like it's going to be fun to watch because it's going to get March Madness type of feel where in a best of one, any team can win. In a series, usually the better team 95% of the time ends up winning. But in a 1-game series, you never know who's going to be hot, who's going to suck, who's going to do, you know what I mean? So I think it's going to be fun to watch those play-in games, because you're going to get to see some teams potentially squeak in there who shouldn't have been there.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously those teams that come out of the play-in tournament, you're playing the big dogs. So that's going to be tough for them to get past that, as we know how the NBA is kind of set up. The top 4 in each basically are the big guys. But yeah, I mean, I just have 2 points on the NBA. Eric Spoelstra, the Miami Heat coach, he just got his 600th win the other night. So shout out to him. That's a big accomplishment in the NBA. And the NBA is also dealing with a referee shortage right now due to COVID-19 protocols and stuff. They're hoping this issue doesn't linger into the playoffs, as some of the games might have to be switched around dates and whatnot, depending on the referees that they do have available, because there is a certain protocol and system that they do where the refs have to ref a certain amount of games. They all get graded, and then those guys move to the postseason and yada, yada, yada. But if they can't have a guy who's supposed to be there, I think they're going to shift things around to make sure everything is in place moving forward. The guys that should be there are there, and they're keeping basketball at, the top level. As since like years ago, basketball really wasn't anywhere, and now basketball's everywhere, all over television, all over anything. And with the NHL kind of following that motto with going to TNT and HBO and that type of stuff, hopefully the NHL gets a similar type of thing, type of ratings boost and whatnot. But yeah, the NBA is hot right now.
For sure. Yeah, switching over quick to some MLB talk. Controversial call last night with the Brewers-Marlins game. In the second inning, Marlins second baseman Isan Diaz hit a soft grounder between the mound and first base. Pitcher Godley would field it, flip it to Vogelbach, and record an out by a large margin, not really close, or so they thought. The first baseman ump would then come in and call obstruction on Godley's part and let Diaz return to first base. Those of you who want to go watch the clip, I mean, watching it happen in real time last night. Even Craig Counsell just came on the field furious for good reason. Really, their ump just called it as, oh, he got in the way of the runner down the baseline, which is where the ball was going. So as a fielder, you let the ball go and let the guy get on base, or I don't know. I guess go watch the clip yourself and make your own conclusion as to that. But the Brewers went on to lose that series against the Marlins 1-2, and then they continue their homestand tonight against the powerhouse Dodgers. And then sticking with the Dodgers, they got back in the win column last night after their first 3-game skid since August of 2019. They beat the Reds 8-0. The Cubs look to snap their 5-game losing streak tonight against the Braves, who have handed them their last 3 losses. And then the last point of the MLB here, Bryce Harper took a 96-mile-per-hour fastball to the face last night against the Cardinals. And then they go on to win 5-3 anyway. Later that night, Harper posted a video on Facebook or on Instagram saying that all of his tests came back good and that he'll be back soon. Face looked like it had a little bit of bruising, but he looked to be fine. Surprisingly, taking a fastball to the face like that. So good to see he's all right there.
Yeah, that was definitely. He's one of my boys. I love following Bryce Harper just because I share the same birthday with him, if people don't know. So that's one of the athletes that I've always kind of been following my whole entire life, is we're the same age and type of stuff. And when you want to keep yourself level, you just go, hey, what is Bryce Harper doing and what am I doing? So he just signed a $350 million contract. What was that? I'm just kidding. I love doing what I'm doing. But yeah, shout out to Bryce Harper for being a man, taking that off the chin.
Yes, that's all I got. What you got going on over the NHL?
So over the NHL, the past couple days, we had the Carolina Hurricanes. They beat the Dallas Stars 2 nights ago, and they ended up losing last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Max McCormick, Wisconsin native from De Pere. Well, he grew up in Anago, but then he ended up like basically living in De Pere and living in the Green Bay area for the most of that. He scored 2 goals in 2 straight games for the first time in his career after coming back off the injury reserve list from earlier in the season. He's a 4th line member, and getting to watch the Carolina Hurricanes game feed on those games, really awesome for the amount of respect and kind of clout, I guess, that the organization gives him as being a solid 4th liner. You know, like the 4th line is so overlooked when it comes to the NHL because those guys aren't getting, you know, the 15 minutes on ice compared to everybody else. They're maybe getting, you know, 5 to 8. But those are very important moments. And especially if you're scoring 2 goals in 2 straight games, those are huge boosts for your team. If your 4th line's out there scoring goals, and listening to his in between the period interview that he had, I forgot his line mate's name, but those two have been playing together since last year when they brought him to the Carolina Hurricanes organization. And they've built some great chemistry, and being able to see it live in game is pretty awesome. And it's really cool to see, you know, another Wisconsin player, Wisconsin native, doing very well in the NHL. So shout out to you, Maxie. The Chicago Blackhawks and the Philadelphia Flyers are now pretty much out of the offs runs. One too many bad games this year. I mean, I'm gonna blame the Flyers season on COVID. They were number 1 until they did hit their COVID stretch, and they haven't been the same ever since. So I'm gonna chalk this one up to COVID here. The New York Rangers hang on as they're pushing to catch the Boston Bruins for that last spot in the East. That the East is becoming a 5-team race, and it's getting really tight here towards the end. So that's gonna be fun to watch. Montreal Canadiens, one of their top guys, Jonathan Drouin, takes an indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons right as the playoffs are around the corner. So Cole Caulfield, stepping in his 2nd game in the NHL last night against Toronto, he's been slotted in on that 2nd line to take his spot. So that's pretty awesome to see him getting, you know, your 2nd game of the NHL, getting moved up to the 2nd line. You're playing on the power play. You're getting 12, 15 minutes a game. Watching the game last night, he was out there quite often. Got to say, keep your head up though, bud. I don't know if you got a chance to watch. Very first shift, he had the puck. The puck was going down the right wall, and he was going to catch it, and the ref just fucking laid him out. He had his head down, and he collided, and the ref just smoked him, dude. Just dropped him. But yeah, that was cool to see. Also in that game, Austin Matthews batted a puck out of midair down to the ice and snapped her in short side to put him at his 35th, his league leading 35th goal of the season. They clinched last night as well. So that kid is just unbelievable of a goal scorer to watch. It just gives you the goosebumps watching great players do great things, and then when they give the reaction, like, holy shit, I just did that. Like, I can't believe I just did that. You know what I mean? Watching athletes who are that good doing stuff where they even surprise themselves that they're capable of doing something like that is awesome to see. And that's kind of the reaction that he gave last night. It was kind of like, holy shit, I can't believe I just did that. So that's awesome. Ryan Miller, he is set to retire at the end of the season. He is the all-time winningest goalie in U.S. hockey history. He's won a gold medal for the U.S. Everything short of a Stanley Cup. I mean, the dude's won it all. He's won the best goaltender. Dude's had a hell of a career. So shout out to you, and hopefully you find you continue to enjoy living it up, buddy. And then last thing I have on the NHL is Quinton Byfield makes his NHL debut last night. He was the 2nd pick in the 2020 NHL draft for the Los Angeles Kings. Snoop Dogg, I don't know if you pay attention to him, but every now and then he'll announce games for the Los Angeles Kings. And he gave him kind of a shout out last night as he took his rookie lap and stuff like that. And it's awesome to see another, I don't even know how I want to say this. Another person, I guess, of color getting in the game, like being drafted that high, coming into the league. Like, there's not that many black players in the NHL. and they started their whole organization, and that's kind of like the one thing with this whole social injustice movement that the United States has been going through and all these sports leagues has been going through to push for equality and all of that stuff. It's really cool to see, a kid getting a shot, and he was drafted number 2. A lot of great things to be said about him. I mean, I got to watch a little bit last night. They seem like they waited long enough, the perfect time to pull him up, because they're out of the playoffs now. Basically, he's going to get to go out there and play, run wild for the rest of the year and get some good experience in. And it looked like he was right at home out on the ice. And then I have a couple questions for you here, Collin.
All right.
Continuing off of the last time that we did this segment, I had asked you if Austin Matthews was going to hit that 40 goal mark. Do you think he's going to get there? He's got 35 goals, and they have 7 games left.
Gosh. I mean, I think the last time we talked, I said that he wasn't going to get there, but given kind of his recent trend of finding the back of the net, really consistently the last really week here since we dove into this. I mean, it's hard to say that he wouldn't at this point. I know I can't remember what he was at the last time you asked me the question, but it was kind of a tall task. Now 5 goals in 7 games. I mean, really a goal a game and getting 2 in 2 games. That's definitely attainable, especially for him kind of on the hot streak that he's in. So I think that he can easily, actually, no. Yeah. With 7 games left. So you'd only need 5 goals. So yeah, he only need a goal a game, and he can afford 2 games where he wouldn't have a goal. So that's even easier than the way than I was thinking. So yes, I definitely think that you can get to 40.
Yeah, last time I asked you, he was at 32, and he had 3 goals over the past week. So, and then the last question I have for you is Connor McDavid, sitting at 84 points now. I know Wayne Gretzky came out and said the other day he wouldn't be surprised if he hits 100, just to show everybody that he can. Do you think McDavid hits that 100 mark? He's at 84 currently, and they have 9 games in hand, 9 games left.
Easily. Again, if you got the great one giving you a shout out and giving you the nod saying go get it done, I think that adds I wouldn't say more pressure, but it just adds more initiative to go out and hit that 100 mark. So again, McDavid hasn't slowed down at all come the end of the season. If anything, he's picked it up a little bit more as far as kind of his production on the ice. Again, having not only finding the back of the net, but getting involved with assists and opening up other opportunities for other guys. Yeah, I hope he gets it. I think he'll easily hit 100 this year.
Yeah, since April 17th, he's had 5, 8, 12, 17 points since April 17th. So he's lighting it up right now. I mean, last time his teammate Leon Draisaitl, who was number 2 in points, I think he was like 7 or 8 behind him. That lead is now 17 points that he has extended himself beyond his teammate. So yeah, just incredible for what this fucking guy is doing for the game of hockey. I mean, everybody who has a chance and who hasn't seen hockey play, hasn't seen the game of hockey be played, to try to get people to like the game, watch Connor McDavid play. All you have to do is just watch him too. You don't even necessarily even need to know what's going on. But if you just watch him or Sidney Crosby, same thing. If you just watch them as they move around the ice, you could just be like, oh my God, these guys are incredible. And you don't even have any idea what's going on. And you can just immediately see, holy shit, these guys are just incredible. And McDavid's just continues to, I don't even know how he's doing it, but he's continuing to keep setting that bar higher and higher and higher and higher. It's like every season he's coming back saying, all right, what did I do last year? Okay, let's go up a little bit. It's been incredible. Like just looking at his career stats, for instance, first 2 seasons, 3 seasons, he had over 100 points playing 82 games, right? Last season, he only played 64 because he was hurt. He had 97 points. And this season, he has 47 games played and 84 points. So he's on pace basically to hit 160 points if they played a full NHL season, which is, those are Gretzky numbers. Those are video game numbers that he's doing in real life, which is just incredible to see. So yeah, shout out to you, McDavid. So you think he's going to get that, eh?
Easily. Like I said, especially with how we said 84 points in 47 games, the way he's trending, he's averaging 2 points a game. So with 9 games left, add 18 points to that, that's just averaging. And there's been a couple of nights where he has 3-4 point nights. So it's I think what did even Gretzky said, I wouldn't be surprised if he hits 110. So yeah, 100 I don't think will be an issue for him.
And then my last point today is news in the UFC world. Conor McGregor sells his majority stake of proper number 12 for $600 million. Cha-ching. 3 years after he has started that company, he's cashing out. He's making more than he's ever made fighting in the UFC. Do you think he ever sets foot in a ring again?
That's good. That's a lot of money for the first start. 600 to start a company and 3 years later turn around and cash out for 600 million. Like, holy shit. Good for him on that respect. I mean, I'd like to see him step back in the ring just for the third matchup between him and Poirier. Just that alone. Otherwise, I don't know if he'd ever step in the ring with one of the Paul brothers. I know they keep John at him to fight him. So I don't know if McGregor's kind of he's got a big ego, but I don't know if he has a big enough ego that he sees the need to step into the ring. And some of these other guys like Askren, it's all it was is for a payday. And especially if McGregor just got a payday of 600 billion from Popper 12, he doesn't need to step into the ring ever again as far as money goes, because he's a smart guy, he's a businessman. He's going to take that 600 million and put him into multiple other industries and different baskets to turn around and make more money. So if he does step back in the ring, I think it's just for that round, that third matchup with Poirier, and whatever happens after that, I think he hangs it up.
Yeah, I don't see him ever stepping in there again. I don't see him throwing on a set of gloves ever again. It's like, why would you run the risk of getting your face beat in when you don't have to, and you have so much money that you can do whatever the fuck you want to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, especially at his point in his career, he
doesn't need to get more famous.
No, he doesn't need to get more famous. He doesn't need more money. He's done a lot of things outside of the ring that he doesn't seem like one of those guys that, I have to fight. It's like that, like, itch in him. Like, obviously I'm not McGregor, so I don't know that for sure, but just with his space in between his fights over the past couple of years, he's not itching to get back into the ring every couple months to fight. He just does it every once in a while. If it looks good, he makes some millions, cool. But now he's at that point where he doesn't even need to do that anymore.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty crazy that he made that much money that quick off of a whiskey company.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Just goes to show, dude, how huge he is over in Europe. I don't know. Like, I can only imagine how famous he is over there. Like, he's super famous here, but just imagine back home in Ireland, like, how famous he is. Like, shit, those guys are whiskey drinkers too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, that's crazy. And the last point I have today, not really news related, but just kind of an announcement. With the NFL draft tonight, tune in as we have our first ever In a League of Their Own NFL Draft Spectacular. We'll be live starting at about 6:30 Central Time. We'll be breaking down all of the first round picks as they happen. We'll be playing some games in between, just chatting about other stuff. I know it can get kind of, there can be kind of a lull in between draft picks. So Yeah, just breaking down each team selection throughout the night. So hopefully you guys will come tune in, watch the draft with us. For those of you who kind of saw our previous or episodes prior when we did mock drafts, we're going to be kind of doing a thing with that as well, comparing what our picks were then, if they match up now, and having like a little penalty or something if we're wrong, and a little reward if we're right. We'll figure something out with that. But yeah, excited to do this. Obviously, try to make it a every year thing, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We've been messing around with a couple different ideas of trying to get people more involved, coming to check us out and get involved with our community. So I feel like this is one opportunity for people to come and do that. So if you guys stop on by later, don't, feel free to stop in the chat, give us a little, hey, how's it going? Give us comments on what we think our picks are versus what you think the team's decisions were at the same time. We want to make this really interactive between us and you guys, as this is going to be the biggest televised event, I feel like, within the last year. There's no movies, this is kind of the big deal. So we want to make the show a good one and a good experience for you guys, so we can continue to try to do other things along these lines as we're going further.
For sure.
And then per usual, thanks again, everyone, for stopping by. We really appreciate everybody who comes by and checks out the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. We really appreciate it. And we hope everybody has a great day. Hopefully you stop back in later for our draft spectacular. And yeah, have a great afternoon and great evening, everyone.
Sounds good.
See you guys tomorrow.
See ya.